Wow. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this awesome creation of a class of a Right Voice for You intro class. And if someone can write the title, I just had it recently and I forgot, but it was.
Okay.
Say it again. I could barely. Oh, I guess the internet is breaking up for you as well. I love it. I love it. You know, one of the things that I enjoy about creating titles for classes is also that then they kind of disappear. And yet it has such an energy of what I was aware of looking at Right Voice for You now and in the future, but it really is, what can we create as our reality? So creating a different reality with our voice. Thank you. And it's that space of like, wow, what if the choices we make today are actually creating our reality? You know, I remember when I very first heard the question of truth, like which one was lighter for you of two? One, does the reality create your point of view, or does your point of view create your reality? And it was amazing how many people I would ask that question to. And it was always, well, the reality, of course, creates my point of view. Everything that's going around in the world, in my country, in my family is going to create my point of view. That's what we think happens. But in truth, part of the magic and what we get to choose to be and have in our reality comes from the point of view that you have. So what points of views do you have about your voice? What points of views do you have about your voice, of what you're capable to be and have and do and choose in your life continues to limit you and the voice that you can have? Everything that is and everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pac, all night shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, I kind of started off right away, but I'm assuming you all know my name, right? So I'm Silvia Puentes. I am a certified facilitator of Access Consciousness. I've been facilitating and playing with these incredible tools for over 12 years. And one of the many favorites, but most dynamic class that I get to facilitate is Right Voice for You. I never thought I would facilitate it. And yet it's the one that allows, it has invited me personally and so many other people to actually show up with a more of a presence and relaxation of being, not of proving, not of getting it perfect, not of getting it right, but truly being the space that invites people to so much more. So for me to facilitate this intro with all of you, and also to facilitate the 3-day class that I do, it really is that, what would it take for each and every one of us to have more of the space of who we be? Because when you have that, you know, you've probably read it in many places, but when you have that, one, you become unstoppable. Two, you become irresistible. And three, there is no such thing as competition because it doesn't exist when you're being you. You have a uniqueness to the gift that you be and the magic that you be, that when you have that, it invites so much more to contribute to you if you're willing to receive it. So this Zoom is also a place where you guys get to ask questions. If you're curious about Right Voice for You, if there's something up for you and your voice in the world and showing up more, let me know. I have amazing translators contributing in Spanish and in Portuguese, so you can ask anything. And it's always amazing to see what it contributes. For me, you know, being invited to come to Sao Paulo at the end of January to facilitate Right Voice for You and Foundation is such a gift, because there is a potency and a power that we in our voices be that I don't get many of us are tapping into it. We're still buying the problems and making them bigger and more real than what we can choose to create with the voice, however you choose to express it, can have. So what are you asking for? If you could ask for anything What is it that you're asking for? And what would that contribute to having a greater planet? So I can go so many places. And as people ask questions, there's, oftentimes different tools and exercises that come up. And there is one exercise, I've had the pleasure of doing these amazing lives with, many of the certified facilitators and other amazing bars facilitators and just amazing people from Brazil. So thank you, all of you that are on here. And I am so grateful because in each one, there was a different energy and a different tool and exercises that came up. So one of the energies that came up, and one of them was the gift that the earth is. So how is it that we allow, or what can we choose and ask from the earth to contribute to us those moments you're feeling very nervous? So let's do that right now. Let's just take this moment now and perceive the earth. You can be in a building, you can be far away. I'm actually out in the mountains in Nevada, out here in the snow right now. So it's a whole different earth, white and beautiful. But wherever you're at, if you're in the city, doesn't matter where you're at. And if it's easier for you and you have a plant nearby, look at the plant, be with the earth. And if you're in a building, reach out as far as you can so that you perceive the energy of the earth. Okay, now that you're perceiving the energy of earth, ask to receive and ask it to pass through your feet, through your legs, and up and out through the top of your head. Now, when you ask to receive, did it change the energy for you? Is there a different energy present now? Is there more of a sense of being relaxed? Okay, now ask, what can you contribute to the earth? So now that you've asked to receive it upward, now also return it and contribute your energy to the earth. So there is a gift that the earth is, because it doesn't have a point of view. It doesn't have a judgment. It's not looking for you to get it right or tell you where you're wrong. There is a generative, kind energy with the earth that if you ask to receive it, it will contribute to you. So if you're going to, do a video, if you're going to talk to someone and there's that sense of feeling nervous and all this energies, ask for the earth to contribute to you and see what changes. Do you become more present, less present? This isn't any conversation you're going to have. So in Right Voice for You, there's so many different tools for you to have that space of you being you, where you can have fun, be goofy, get it wrong, laugh, cry. It doesn't matter. Like when you are being you, there is a gift and it pulls. It has an energy of pull. So as you're looking to create more of your business, as you're looking to create something different with your body, what can Right Voice for You contribute to you? What is the space of you having ease with your voice and everything you're asking for that can now be received with way more ease? So everything that is and everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So one of the things that's so different with Access Consciousness and with, Right Voice for You is that many of the things that people think they need to do might not always be what create the most. There is a space of different exercises we do so that you have this ease of connecting with people. It's not about pushing energy and telling them all these things. It really is engaging with them and pulling energy. Here's another one. Here's another incredible tool. And if anybody wants to go off mute and make a comment, ask a question, but we just did that short one with the earth. And all of a sudden, as we were doing it, I could perceive people's bodies relaxing. And how many of you maybe got like, oh, I'm tired. Are you tired or are you just more relaxed? Like the willingness to be relaxed and still be out in your life creating what you're creating. Okay, so this next one. And at any time, if anybody wants to help me and unmute and tell me what the Portuguese says, because even though I'm understanding it a lot more, reading is something different. So where can I have more ease with that? But if there's a question, please.
There,
Go ahead.
Yeah, there are two comments on the chat. One is that we reached 100 people in the Portuguese Zoom, so people are not being able to come in, so they're joining the English one and just marveling with you. Então, chegamos a 100 pessoas no chat em português, no Zoom em português, então as pessoas estão entrando no Zoom em inglês, mesmo sem entender. And the other one is saying that Marcia did a travel between San Sebastian and Ilhabela with you in the universe. And what's required for her to actualize immediately the right voice for you in São Paulo.
Awesome. That's where it begins. Your question and your demand begins that. So what are you demanding of you and your voice? And let me share a little something. Years ago, before I became a Right Voice for You facilitator, I thought I didn't have anything to say. I don't have anything to say that's important or worth people listening. Like I thought I was, you know, just like anybody else. Like, why would anybody listen to me? And as the years went on and I started to take more classes and I was facilitating, I had a friend, she went out to protest. They were digging, you know, and doing these things out in this beautiful land. And she went physically to protest. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. She's so courageous. She has a voice. She's standing up for something. And then she looked at me. She goes, Sylvia, do you realize people are listening to you? I was like, huh? She goes, what is it that you know that you could bring out to the world? And, you know, I thought she was crazy. But as I started to look at like, wow, if I could bring voice to anything in the world, what would I like to bring more out in the world? Because otherwise, what's it about? Like, what would you like to bring out in the world? You know, some of you have incredible talents, like you paint or you cook, or you have these artistic abilities that when people see your work, it is such a gift. Some of you are dancers and singers, and it's like, it's a huge gift when you are enjoying all of that. Some of you are writers. Some of you, there's so many different ways to express your voice. So when I started to ask myself that question, it's like, okay, if I could bring anything to the world, what would that be? Have you asked yourself that question? If you could voice anything in the world, what would that be? So there was a moment where I was facilitating a class out in Mexico City. And after day one, there was an energy that showed up that people were like noticing that was so different. And there was an energy of allowance. There was an energy of allowance for them to be who they be with no judgment. So on day two in that morning, I woke up and I'm like, okay, there is an energy I be with allowance. And you know what? I desire a world with more space of allowance. So you know what? That's what I'm going to choose, no matter what it takes. I even said, surprisingly enough, out of my mouth, even if it means I die. But that was the first time that there was something that I was aware of that was bigger than me, that could create a greater planet. That if we each had more allowance of what we choose and how we show up and of others and ourselves, like it's just a different energy and a different space that I desire to see more in the planet. So at that moment, I chose that and my life started to change. As I started to do more videos, not about, okay, Sylvia, but it was like, okay, Sylvia, and there's a message I have of what I desire in the world. Anybody else? So when I ask you, what is it that you would like to bring out to the world? What is it that you know is possible that perhaps very few people could bring to the world the way you do? And if nothing comes to mind right now, it's okay. Start just to ask yourself, it's like, what do I desire this world to be like? What would I love to see more on the planet? And what can I choose today to have more of that show up? So ask yourselves, because your voice can come out in so many different ways. And the more that you're willing to ask, you may surprise yourself of what shows up. Cool. I got a little excited there with all this energy. It's like, yeah.
Yes, we have another Portuguese question saying, how can we bring our voice in hospital places?
Okay, so my question is, what would you like to see different in the hospitals? What are you aware of is possible? And everybody can ask themselves that question of wherever you're at in your, what do you know is possible different in your family? What's possible in your work, in your business? But if you're asking like, how can I bring my voice in the world? You got to ask, what is important for me here? Like, what is it that I'd like to have more? I mean, one of the things when I think of hospitals, I'm all like, my father and mother were both in the hospital not too long ago. And I got to see amazing nurses that had this kind energy of really listening and asking questions to their patients. My father, I don't think he was in a rush to leave the hospital because everybody was taking care of him. He was a very well taken care of. And, everybody has different experiences. But when I go, wow, what would it be like in a hospital where patients are really given the information and choice? So I would be asking for that. So when I walk into the hospital and I'm there with my father or mother or someone else, it's like, I'm willing to be that voice and ask questions. Okay, what is this? What's going on? So willing to be the voice for questions to be answered and information to be given. I'm also a voice when I'm in the hospital for people to have a choice, to acknowledge there's a choice. Death and living is a choice. And that's not easy for a lot of people. So when I'm in a hospital, I'm asking, wow, whoever would like to leave, how can I contribute to you leaving quicker and sooner? And there's processes and access to contribute to that. People that would like to live, okay, what can you take from me? What is it that my body knows about living that you can take? Now, that might be a way of voicing things, some out loud and some just with as I walk through a hospital. But this is where having your voice in the world and creating your reality doesn't mean you're shouting up on top of a mountain. It might mean that you have a different presence about you, that you ask more questions, that you're curious about what people know. So anything you've already decided and concluded that your voice needs to look like or be, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And everything you've already decided and concluded that your voice will give you as a result, like having your voice will result in, because anytime you have a result in mind from a choice, you're limiting what's possible. So everywhere you already have a result. If I have a voice in my world, I'll make more money. If I have a voice in my world, I finally find, that special person in my life. If I have a voice in my world, whatever you've decided, will you now destroy and uncreate all of that so you can open yourself up to the infinite possibilities of what gift your voice can be in the world, greater than you can imagine? So all of that and everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pun pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, the other thing to keep in your awareness as you are choosing different, there's going to be a moment where things might be weird. You'll be like, well, I thought this was my voice. Now I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. It's not wrong. There are moments when we start to shift the energy of what we're willing to be in the world because also of what's showing up. When around the world, we started to have all these changes, I knew something different had to be. I knew I was going to choose. I was choosing something different. My business needed to be different. I didn't know what it was, but I could perceive the energy. It's like something's got to change. I don't know what, I don't know how. It's got to change something. And what seemed like was going to be 1 week, we are now living in 2 years. But I already had the awareness. So what awareness do you have of the future that your voice is starting to change of what you're speaking about, what you're bringing in the world, what you're beginning to perhaps create as a business? And this is where using your awareness also contributes to your voice changing and creating that reality you're asking for. So everything that is and everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Louise says, after your facilitation at the soft spoken change intro last month, I am much more confident with my voice and my message. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. And Louise, it was amazing to facilitate her on stage. And it was what, maybe 10 minutes at the most? It wasn't a long facilitation, but it's when you are willing to show up and be present with all the energies that show up, you get to show up different. And if you want to share anything, even if you do it in Portuguese, Luis, you're welcome to. Because it was a beautiful facilitation.
Can I talk to you without my camera on, because I'm not at a great location.
Problem, yes.
For putting the camera. Okay. So yeah, I remember you were talking. I was at the microphone, and you first talked to Christina, I think it was her name, and she was like all calm and really talked just a little bit, and I'm the complete opposite, as I said there, and I always judge myself as wrong for it. And that was the first thing you said. You said, yeah, you're judging yourself about it. And I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, that's it. And after that, I just became a lot more comfortable about the way I speak, about the speed, about the tone of my voice. I know there are people that would rather listen to something different, and that's okay. But I also know that there are people that are going to connect with the way I talk and the way I say things. So that was really special, because it made me a lot more confident in my own skin and with myself. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And thank you for bringing that point up. So how many of you judge you for the sound of your voice? Okay, so everything that is, yeah, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So how many of you judge yourself for being too loud or too aggressive with your voice? How many of you judge yourself for not speaking or being too shy? How many of you judge yourself for, there's so many judgments, and I can make a long list of them, but the new question I'd like for you to ask is like, when did I buy the point of view that the sound of my voice was bad? Because it's not like you're born and at 1 year old, you're like, I hate my voice. I doubt it, right? And how many of you started to judge yourself for being too loud? First of all, was that your judgment or someone else's judgment? Now, if you were a happy, exuberant kid, like how many kids do you see? They're running around, they're happy, they're talking, and someone tells them, you talk too much. You're too loud. You need to be like your other sister, all quiet. So now you're being compared. So everywhere you've been compared and judged for being wrong, that keeps you limiting the gift of your voice of however you choose for it to show up. Will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Because the gift of being willing to have all energies available and not judging any of them is that there can be a day where you're super loud, and then there can be a day where you're super soft, or from one moment to the next. But if you have decided, someone says, judgment for having a loud laugh, that's awful. Gabi, that's totally awful. She says she has a loud laugh. Yes. I'm sure that's bad for the planet too. Just kidding. But where we begin to go, okay, is judgment real, or is it simply someone's point of view? So everywhere you bought someone's point of view of the judgment of you, your voice, your presence, your body, will you guys please return to sender with consciousness attached? It's like, thank you so much. Goodbye. Bye-bye. Some of you got that. Not about fighting them, just like, obrigada. Mucha obrigada. And then it's like, what do I enjoy about me? What am I happy with me? You know, I love my smile. I love my laugh. Okay. I also like to be quiet at other times. You know, I love my crazy hair, or I love whatever it is for you. But if you can begin to have more of the joy of what you enjoy for you, it's not going to matter what anybody else says. But how many of you are still waiting for your voice to come out in the world for when people tell you it's good, it's right, it's the best? So everywhere you're waiting to be compared and put up on the top by somebody else rather than you choosing that, well, you destroy and uncreate all that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. So what else is possible with our voices as we create the reality we would like to have? Creating a different reality. And, you know, if you know the Access Consciousness tools, you probably have heard of a lot of the, you know, the stuff I'm using now, which is the clearing statement and so much more. But for the 3-day Right Voice for You class and this one, there was no prereqs. So I don't know if we have anybody here that has never heard of Access Consciousness, maybe, but people can come that have never heard about Access Consciousness, and we go over the tools, but then we get to use them in a very, very dynamic way, a way where you might have a different sense of what dropping your barriers is, what pooling energy is. All these different tools that we talk about in foundation and in other classes, you now get to practice them. Guess where? In front of other people. So many people, you know, I do my best in classes to have a stage. So we will have a stage at the Right Voice for You class, not to scare you, not to give you a heart attack. No one has died yet, but to also have all the energies come up of what it's like for you to be in front of people, right? There's something like, you know, you're on a Zoom and your camera's off. Okay, right? Or you're on Zoom and your camera's on, or you're talking to one person, but there's a whole nother energy that shows up when you stand up on the stage. And that's what we begin to look at. That's what we begin to go, okay, what's coming up for you? Where have you made that real? And the other side of that, how can you use it to your advantage? Because there's an energy that shows up. Perhaps you become aware of thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the people in the class. You get to use that. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's not true. It's just there. You get to use it. So how many of you, in the moments where you're feeling nervous and your hands are sweating and your body's shaking, are you just aware of a lot of energy? So if you didn't resist that energy that you're aware of, even right now, you know, if you're on the Portuguese Zoom, you have now 100 people. If you're here, you know, you have over 60. So it's like, there's a lot of energies present. All the people still trying to get in on the Zoom that can't get on the Zoom. It's like their energy and frustration. Maybe you're aware of that. But how many energies are you aware of in your house, in the room you're in? How many other energies are there that you're aware of? Down in the street, down in the neighborhood, like what are you aware of? All the changes that are going on. So truth, are you aware of those energies in many different ways? Yes or no? Yeah. And if you stopped refusing your awareness, how much more ease could you have using it, receiving it, going, wow, it's crazy today. Something's going on. It's intense. Some people call that anxiety. Maybe it's just you being aware of energies. Some people say, I'm having a panic attack. Maybe it's just you being aware of energies. So part of the gift of going up on stage and playing with that is that you get to experience all these energies and begin to play with the tools that will give you a sense of relaxation and being present. Yes. Are they asking me to speak Spanish, maybe?
We are suggesting people that to join the Spanish chat because we're filled in Portuguese.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately, she doesn't understand much of Spanish. Also, we have a question in Portuguese.
Yes.
Asking what is being the voice? Can you talk a little bit more about this?
Okay, let me ask all of you. When in your life have you felt you had a voice? You know, many of us have had experiences of not having our voice. You know, if you grew up with parents like, oh, what do you know? You're just a little kid, right? So no one cared about your voice. Yeah. So that moment. So everywhere. So, hold on. Okay. So who or what told you your voice did not matter? Okay, so everything that is and everything that brings up, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Who or what told you your voice did not matter? Was it a teacher? Was it a parent? Was it another child? Okay, so everywhere you made that true and you've hid your voice since then, will you now revoke, recant, rescind, renounce, destroy, and uncreate everything you bought as true and real that isn't? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay, you start to notice like when I asked that question, notice how much energy showed up. Many of you are aware of it. If you're not, that's fine. But there started to be this energy of like, oh, right? That's your awareness of the energy, okay? So we have blocked our voices in many different ways by the judgments and the limitations and the lies that we've bought as true. And so for me, having your voice is being able to say what's required when people can hear it. That's been so challenging. Because you haven't noticed, I like to talk. And there's been moments, especially with my son, where he has gifted me the becoming more and more aware of the moments that it's time to shut up. There are many times where your voice might be choosing not to speak. You cannot give something to someone that is not asking for it or willing to receive it. So how many of you think you don't have a voice in the world because what you have to say, few people can receive and hear? So everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Yeah, so you're not wrong. You've just been aware of, oh, this can't be received. You know, it's so funny. You know, I speak English, I also speak Spanish, and I understand Portuguese now. But as I was, I grew up, my first years growing up, I spoke Spanish, then went to school and learned English. But there came a point where I started to facilitate in Spanish, and my Spanish was not good at all. It's improved a lot. There was a lot of judgment from people. Oh, Sylvia and her Spanish, or, all these different judgments and projections about my Spanish. And I think to myself now, I'm like, wow, if I would have bought those judgments, what would have not shown up in the world that got to show up with my awful Spanish and all, with all that I facilitated in Spanish, with the energy of I'm not stopping, with the energy of, okay, yeah, it's funny. I laugh at myself. Go ahead, correct me. But those energies, so what judgment have you made so real that has limited you having your voice in the world? So everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, something that many people do is, well, my voice means I tell you my truth. I'm going to tell you what I think, what I know, even if you don't want to hear it, because I'm going to have my voice. That's something else. That's being a bossy cunt. That's being a pushy, all sorts of things. Okay? When someone cannot hear what you have to say, maybe it's time to shut up. And maybe the greatest gift you can give in that moment is to ask them a question. Because when you ask someone a question, you begin to engage them. You engage them in a possibility. So what is having your voice in the world? It can be so many things, but it's about being aware of what can be said in that moment that will create greater and more. So I hope that gives you some clarity, at least my point of view of having your voice. You know, and having your voice is also not always about being nice to everyone. You know, it's also the moments where whatever energy is required, you get to use it. So what energy have you decided that is right? And what energies have you decided are wrong? You know, do you see people being loud and happy? And you're like, gosh, they're so crazy. Like, you get irritated. Or do you see, you know, someone else being all bossy and pushing? You're like, gosh, you know, why do they do that? You know, so there's what energy is it for you? What energy do you judge the most? That you have not allowed yourself the freedom to choose or be. That if you did allow yourself the freedom to choose and be, would allow you to have a voice greater and bigger than you can imagine. So everything that is and everything that brings up, will you destroy and create it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pan pak, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Silvia,
Yes,
hi.
Mauricio, hello.
Hey. Now I remember this the first time I listened to my voice and recorded. I am a boy and bring the Christmas and receive a small tape in the time. And when I hear my voice, it's so weird, so different. I'm judged very much because now I have more clarity about this. But for children, this is you talk more about this with the children that listen to the voice. It's amazing, different, because in my head, I listen with my ears. In my head, I have an echo. But we talk about this because this remembering this moment is amazing.
Well, it's interesting. And let me ask you something. Do you ever have those mornings where you wake up and you're like, gosh, I feel sexy and thin and I'm feeling good? You have those moments like everything just, the clothes feel good. And then someone takes a picture of you and you see it and you're like, what's that? That's not how I feel. What happened? So Jesse says all the time, right? So my question with voice recordings or videos, you know, how many of you make a video and then watch it and you're critiquing it and judging it, right? The way you look, the way you sound, and it can be both ways. Oh, that was great. That wasn't great, right? But all those judgments, what do they actually give you? Do they create more or less? You know, someone asked Gary Douglas one time, they're like, well, what do you do not to judge your videos? He's all, I never watch them. And, you know, there's so many things that occurs for different people. You know, some of you, maybe when you were young, had a beautiful voice and you sang one day, right? And someone told you, you have the most beautiful voice. Well, that can stick someone too, because now they're like, oh, they thought that was beautiful. Now they think they always have to have that voice, that same voice, and they're always judging if it was that good or not. So if it wasn't about the sound of your voice, what else could it be? Like when you speak, where are you speaking from? Where does your voice come from? Those of you that are scientists and doctors can probably tell me more than I can explain. But, many people will look at like all the parts that creates the sound and that comes out. But your voice in the world, does it come from there or somewhere else? What if every molecule of your being contributes to the voice you can have in the world? And what if you having your voice in the world doesn't even matter what you say? It's more about what you be. And oftentimes, that's what inspires people. It's who you be. And then there's the words and there's tools and there's all the other stuff you get to add. But when you actually choose to be more of you, have that space of you, that is the gift.
And I'm perceiving this in the class in the São Paulo, and that create a much space in me now, and I'm perceiving behind the mask, behind the armor. This is my voice, and I make a total difference in all the classes for all. I invite the people to this class because this is for awesome class forever. There's the possibility to use all the tools to access. This is amazing. Thank you for bringing the class for the people in Brazil.
Thank you, Mauricio. And Mauricio is also a Right Voice for You facilitator. So for him to share where he was and what he discovered, and I'm grateful. Thank you for contributing to this class, showing up and being available for more people. And I'm going to point this out right now because this is having your voice in the world different. Mauricio, I don't know if you guys saw, but he and I had a live together. So Mauricio's, I'll do a live with you for your class of Right Voice for You. He's also a facilitator of Right Voice for You, but he has a generosity of spirit to go, I'll contribute, Sylvia. Like, I'm grateful and thank you, And right now, me mentioning that about him, there is an exchange of generosity between us. That is also having a voice in the world that's different. That doesn't exist between a lot of people. That's my choice to be a certain way in everything that I choose. That's Mauricio's choice that creates a different reality. So your voice is also, how do you choose to engage with other people that's creating something greater? Yes, we can look at sound and we can play and we can change that. That's totally possible. And if that's what you would like, yes, let's play with that. But if it wasn't about the sound coming out, what is it that you be and can invite people in a different reality, just like Mauricio and I did once you have all that information. So thank you, Mauricio, very much for that. That makes you pretty different.
Yes, very different because and other things. And now I'm talking in English with you. This for no judging because my time verbs, because my poor vocabulary, no problem. I'm used to energy to talk with you in the class and all the times. And this is an invite for all people. Come on, Silvia is great. It's the best opportunity for you. In January, São Paulo is coming. This is amazing class. People is totally
awesome.
Bring the energy. This is amazing. No words, only energy.
And thank you, because just like Mauricio said, who did I do a live? I think it was with Gabi. Gabi, I did a live with you where our translator didn't come on time. So I kept speaking Spanish. Next thing you know, she was understanding me. She was speaking Portuguese. Next thing you know, she started speaking English. She's like, Sylvia, I don't speak English. And we were having fun receiving from each other, right? There was such a beautiful gift in that. But here's the other part. Gabi and I were having a space of allowance for each other. There was a space of receiving, which made it very easy, right? It was just back and forth, having a great time. That's a space of gifting and receiving. Now, there will be other times you're in a class or you're speaking with a small group of people and you go to speak and all your, like, nothing makes sense and it's all twisted and you forget your words, and you may want to ask, what are you aware of? Because I know when I'm in a class or I'm in a place where people are judging my Spanish, guess what? My Spanish gets worse. It just like, oh, all right. There's some judgment in the room for my Spanish. And I'll say it out loud. I'll say, wow, I know my Spanish is awful and I make a lot of mistakes, but I'm willing to laugh at myself. And then it begins to change because I don't buy the judgment about the pronunciation or my my made up words. I have fun with it and it changes all the energy that then all of a sudden, if people are willing to change that too, then there's more ease. But how many times have you gone to the judgment of how you speak or what you say when it's actually not yours? It's simply an awareness you're having. So thank you for that. And some people are asking when they can get the replay. Gabi, do you have it on your Instagram? She can maybe put the link. There was a lot of lives. There was one Mauricio, Roanita. There's been a lot of beautiful, beautiful lives. I don't know. We have a, if you guys want, everybody, I've done a live. Can you put your Instagram? Maybe people can go there and find it. And they were fun, 20, 30 minutes lives where we were talking about the incredible tools. Each one is different and there's a different energy. And that's the gift our voices get to be. Each and every one of you on tonight have a different voice. So who can you reach by who you be that's different than anybody else? That's why the big lie that few people still think is true, but is competition. There's no such thing. And when you really, really get that, there is more that will show up for you than you can imagine. So look for what is your voice. How does it show up for you? What's fun for you? Because you can't be Sylvia. I know you all want to try, but you can't. No, be you. I'm taken. But what is the gift of you? What is the brilliance of you? We've all chosen to live a life and are asking for something that invites different people. So awesome. Yeah, super. Okay, 2 hands are up. Me, I'm not sure if me is me, but me was first. Okay, Stella, you're next. Or do I need
Hello.
to? There you go.
Okay. So Vivian asks, how to deal with this ability of have something to say that is something so much for the future that nobody can receive now? How can I create things on the moment of now, that is a perception of the future? I will translate this to Portuguese.
So one of the things I would say first, when you have that awareness, like, wow, what I want to share, very few people can hear right now. So ask yourself, if you're going to write a book, ask, wow, do you write it for today? Or are you writing it for 5, 10, maybe even 50 years from now? The willingness to give it a voice for the future is also possible. If you're speaking to a group, ask, what can they hear? And you may have an idea of what you want to tell them. This is what I want to tell them. This is what they need to know. That doesn't matter. Ask, what can they hear? And you will be surprised of how you deliver the information in a way that they can hear it. Now, here's another tool. I mean, we can stay here all night long with many, many of the tools. And I hope that you guys take some of these tools to practice, but when you're speaking, and even if you do videos, maybe speaking to your child, whoever you're speaking to, ask yourself, what can they hear? If someone's yelling at you and they're angry, okay, and you want to say something, catch yourself, drop your barriers. What can they hear? And maybe you don't say anything. Drop your barriers. What can they hear? And you will surprise yourself by the 1, 2, or 3 or 4 words you say that changes all the energy. But you have to be willing to know and trust that you will get what they can hear. And that would be the greatest gift than trying to give them what you want them to know or hear. is there a way I can say this that they could receive? But notice what I'm doing. I'm giving you questions to ask, not giving you answers of how to do it, because you will know. And each time you ask a question that you receive the awareness, you will have way more to receive. But the only way you're going to know about these tools is also putting them into practice. You got to put them into practice and just play with them. I remember the first time I played with What Can He Hear? And it was many, many, many years ago. I was with someone and they were really, really angry, and I wanted to defend myself. I was not wrong. I wanted to defend. I'm not wrong. And instead I caught myself and I said, all right, what can they hear? And they kept going and going and going. Okay, what can they hear? What can they hear? Dropped my barriers. What can they hear? What can they receive? And I said like 4 words, and it stopped them in their tracks. They're like, what? It changed everything for them. And it showed me that it wasn't, I didn't have to defend being right or not being wrong, or it was not required. What was going to change the most was me willing to be aware of what they could hear. That was a kindness for them and a kindness for me. So it wasn't until that very first time I thought, oh my gosh, this tool really works. So you may hear about all these incredible tools in Access Consciousness, and you will all get to live them in a way where you're like, oh my gosh, I get it now. But you got to play with them. So part of what we get to do in Right Voice is that we get to play with these tools in a way that you will now have very clear for you about each of these tools and how you can take them out into your world. So I hope that helped, that question there. Anything else I can contribute to you all for this short little intro of Right Voice? And I think you should just all come to my class. That's it, all of you. Come, San Pablo. Right Voice for you, and then stay for foundation. And then we're gonna have, body process classes. And so I think you should just come for all of them, because it'll be super, super, super boring. No. No, I would love for you all to come, because I know that this class is a gift, and it's a gift in different ways. And one thing I would ask you, if you're choosing this class, please, we'll put the information, maybe someone can put the links up. But if you're choosing this class, ask, wow, if I can get anything out of this class, what would I like to receive? And then be ready for it to be something different. Because that's the gift. Like once you ask one question, there is so much more that gets to open up. So ask, and if you're sensing a possibility here, ask is now the time, and come play. I would love to have all 200 of you that registered for this class live at the Right Voice for You, and then come and play in Foundation. Because what can we create as a different reality we have not been willing to choose? What if now more than ever, oh my, is the time? Like watch out 2022, because here we come in a very different way, very different way. Yeah, being pathetic and limitations is so 2020. So 2021. So if you guys are ready to choose something different, I would be happy to receive you. I would really be happy to receive you, and happy to return to Brazil and enjoy los brasileños. And if you don't live in Brazil, come anyways. I know that there's some ease in crossing borders, so come. Yes, thank you. Gratidón. Yes, thank you so much. So anything else before I go? Anything from the amazing ladies and gentlemen that have been contributing to this class? Monique, you've been amazing. I'm so grateful for you and her enthusiasm and getting this class out into the world in so many ways. Any question? Okay, awesome.
Okay. We have one question from a participant. I guess she's still writing.
Okay. And meanwhile, Gabi, I see you. Ruanita, I see you. I don't know if, and Mauricio did a live. Monique, I see you. I know we're going to have a live with Thaisa on next week. If you guys know Thaisa. There's just
Yes.
amazing, beautiful. And our beautiful translator, Juliana, who lost her voice today. Very interesting. So she couldn't
We have
translate. I wanted to thank Stella. Stella, thank you for translating today.
Fabiola asks, so the right voice would be our voice, the one that works for us? And what about the others? Is it congruency? That's her question.
Well, you said it right there at the beginning. Right voice for you is right voice for you. And then the right voice that's for you. And then the right voice that's for you and for you and for you and a different one for me. This is your voice doesn't have to be like anybody else's. And that congruency and start to notice, like, I don't know if you in Brazil, do they have like the TED Talks? Is there TED Talks? Yes. Okay. So if you want to play, just watch maybe 3 or 4 different TED Talks and ask yourself, is their voice, not necessarily what they say, is it congruent? Are they being the energy of what they're saying? Because that congruency, you notice it. And there's certain people that speak and you're like, next. And then there's other people that speak and you're like, oh, don't stop. Right? So notice, what are they being? Ask, what is that? If you find yourself like, oh my gosh, I could listen to this person all day. What are they being? And begin to play with those energies because you guys are aware. You know, you chose to come on this, intro, maybe because it was free, who knows? Maybe because you saw one of the lives, maybe because someone told you, oh, it's Sylvia, whatever it was. But what is it that you're aware of? And not everybody likes me. I know there's people that hate me, and that's fine. But I'm enjoying what I'm contributing. And I know there's a possibility. So what is it for you? What are you aware of when you hear people? And so play with it, play with the tools. And start to notice when you hear people speak, you are aware, and you know when something's going to contribute to you. All right, beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for playing. And I hope to see you guys live in San Pablo, Brazil in enero, January. And then in Portuguese, it's, what is it? Añero, which sounds like January. And maybe some other parts of the world. This class, Right Voice for You class, can only be done live now. So this 3-day class, before we could play online, now it's only live, just so you know. So come. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful you guys all took the space in your day. Thank you for all of those of you that are contributing. If you have any questions, you have a lot of people here that you can reach out to. Monique, Gabi, you have also Roanita, and many, Mauricio, I'm sure can direct you also, but you guys have many, many different people. You have Julie. I don't know if she made it on live. But yes, I'm grateful for every one of you. So what else can we truly create on this planet that's never been seen before? And what if you having your voice is part of that gift and possibility? So, obrigada, muito obrigada. Ciao, everybody. See you soon. Ciao, ciao.